Bam.
This is Aaron Sams, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
I love. I think I'm just a couple of years older than you. I love you two. Have always been a big fan and have enjoyed their music, and especially love how the songs have evolved over time, and just the community of people, especially like with the Sphere, really brought in this global hug for all you two people because every Sphere show was so just incredible and everything else. So I wanted to have you on the show, one, because I love to talk about you too, but also it's neat just all the different ways that people create within that ecosystem.
Yes. Um,
What, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
What inspired the book?
The publisher inspired the book. They actually approached me. It's a part of a series, the Song by Song series. So they go through and have different artists featured. I think they do 3 books a year. So they were looking for somebody to write about U2, and they came across me via the webpage that I've been running since '95.
Wow.
So it was a push to write.
What does that mean?
That they pushed me to write. It wasn't something I went out with a manuscript and sought a publisher. They came looking for me. So
Right. When you take on something like this, it's one okay, so when we look at bands all time and everything, you know, you could have a discussion on where U2 fits in, but because they've been prolific, because they've been great for so long, I mean, there's really no band that has more incredible songs that have deep fan base appreciation. One of the things that's great about U2, Led Zeppelin, Beatles, you say, "Hey, what's your favorite song?" And you ask 20 people, you'll get 40 answers to what their favorite song is, right? And so when you're going through this, you own that responsibility to make sure that you spend the appropriate amount of time on every song. Not that you would shortchange any song, but you really have an obligation to nail it on Ultraviolet because, hey, that's my favorite song, kind of thing.
I uh, I struggled with the prolific side of U2. Fitting all that into a book where I was only given a certain amount of words was difficult. So some things just had to get left by the wayside. I had
Yeah.
started writing with the Pop album. It was one of my favorite albums, so it was a good place to dive in. I used up the entire word count on one album. So
Dang.
there was a lot of material that came back out again. So it really forced me to sit down and focus and look at the songs and what I thought might be interesting to someone.
Yeah.
I wanted a band quote in there for pretty much every song. So there's 300 quotes. Uh, Went through a lot of research digging things out to hopefully not shortchange a song.
Yeah.
Um, Couple of the B sides and the lesser known tracks did get a little bit of a shorter entry. And a song like Where the Streets Have No Name gets a couple of extra paragraphs in there. It's hard to avoid some of that, but
Yeah.
I hopefully managed to spread the love over all of the songs that are in there.
Did any song not make the cut? Because there's all kinds of, bits of songs that they sing and that kind of thing. Did anything not make it in?
Every song from every album and every B side, every project they went out and worked on with somebody else made it in, with the exception of one that I missed. Somewheres in editing the book, I missed Disappearing Act. So I
Oh,
guess
okay.
the write up for Disappearing Act is it disappeared.
What was because whenever you do these deep dives, you learn amazing things, and then also in the era of AI and bullshit, you can grab facts that simply are not true.
I went back to all the original sources. I didn't grab anything off the internet. If it was a Q magazine article, I tracked down the Q magazine article. Had a network of people sending me stuff from all over. So I
Yeah,
went back to the original to try and avoid any of the AI BS that's going on right now. But it was important to go back and get accurate quotes. I also
yeah.
tried to go back to time specific material. So the
Hmm.
October information, I tried to find interviews from 81, 82. rather than grabbing something current that's been affected by 40 years of memory.
Yeah. I owned, gosh, and I don't know what my record collection is. Might be my brother's attic or who knows, but I owned probably in 86 or so. There was a picture disc, like an actual record. And it was, an interview, two sides, because that's how they used to do this. That was YouTube back in the old days. You remember this. But that, just that thing, that one, because it's U2, those things exist in the wild and you can find them and purchase them or hey, record this thing for me, right? Because that's what it takes to get back to the original source sometimes.
I did a lot of digging, a lot of research. You can see behind me is a bit of my book and audio collection. I'm a big collector, so I had a lot of original material to go back to.
Yeah.
So if I was looking for something on an early single, I could go and pull it out and take a look direct.
Yeah.
So
Now, so not every song is going to have a lot of a body of work behind it, right? Like Xanax and Wine. Good luck, right? Like maybe there's a lot said about that song. So I'm picking something that's pretty far out there, pretty deep cut. But how did you deal with those deeper things that it just who's even going to ask a question about that song?
um, if it ended up on the album, it got a decent sized write up. Xanax and Wine, I believe, is a bonus track. So at
Right.
the end of each chapter, there's a little section that said other songs from the era. So the focus is on the album songs. And then at
Gotcha.
the end of each chapter, there's a couple of pages discussing the other little bits and pieces that came out during the years around that album. So Xanax and Wine falls into there. Xanax and Wine became a song called Fast Cars. So there was a bit of information there. Debuted live in Toronto in 2005, so they have played it. So there's some interesting little things that I could pull out.
Yeah.
Found some quotes. That song actually has the lyric "How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb," which became the name of the album. So there's a
Yeah.
little fact about it.
Yeah, that's great. You own these little things now, right? Like you pick up these. You're like, no, no kidding. What was the word count? What did they give you, and were you able to bust it? Because it's easy to write 1,000 words about a single song.
I think I was asked to keep it to 20,000, 2,500, and I came in around 35.
Oh yeah,
I crossed it and kept on going, and they were good to me. They agreed to publish it as is without a lot of cuts. So
yeah.
they
Well,
liked what
in
they got.
three a catalog of 300 songs, that's just not a lot of words per song.
The problem is so many albums, so many songs, and fitting it all into the space. I would have
Yeah,
much rather have an artist that's a little more recent. I noticed that Robbie Williams has a book in the series. He probably doesn't have as many albums and probably can spend a little more time on each song that way.
right. Yeah, like Maroon 5. They're adorable. They've been around for a long time and everything. Fantastic act. They don't have 300 songs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I see that Songs of Surrender didn't make the cut in the book. Is that by design? Is that timing? I mean, it seems like there would have been enough time, but you tell me.
uh, Final draft of the book was submitted in 2021,
Hmm.
and Songs of Surrender came out in 2023. So it didn't make the cut because of the timing of the book. The book was
Right,
delayed a couple of times because of paper costs and paper shortages in the UK where it
right.
was published.
Yeah.
Originally, it was supposed to be out last March, which would have
Hmm.
been out the same time Songs of Surrender was.
Right.
So I managed to fit in a brief mention of it, and there's a brief mention of Atomic City, the new single from last fall. I had a little chance to fit a couple of things in, but the guideline was for every letter I put in, I had to take a letter out. So
Ah,
it was hard to put a lot in. So Songs of Surrender is mentioned in passing at the end of the book.
yeah.
Atomic
That
City
is an
gets a little
amazing
bit more
album,
space.
and what a big swing for a band to do something like that.
Songs of Surrender?
Yeah,
I love it. It's
yeah,
it's not a very popular album among some of the hardcore U2 fans, but I think they've given us a little treasure. They've kind of let us into almost like a beach party or a kitchen party. You're sitting right beside them, listening to them strum these songs on acoustic guitar. It's
Yeah.
really a closer look into the individual songs in a lot of ways. I love it.
What song stood out to you? I mean, some of the songs, okay, so I'll just do my little part first here and then we'll get out of your way. Some of the songs were just still too fresh and didn't need an update. You want to represent the album, okay, fine. But there were other songs that I thought, man, they really should have done this one again. But I thought, in particular, Bad was wonderful. Like that, just what an incredible reinterpretation of that song.
I really enjoyed the early stuff off of Boy that they did. How to Control Stories for Boys. I thought it was a fresh take, really put a little polish on them that's never been there before,
Right.
and really got me looking at the songs in a different light. So I kind of like the early stuff. Two Hearts Beat as One.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's
I
great.
I kind of love what they did with that. They really turned it into a little jazzy number that I really just enjoy.
Yeah. I thought their reinterpretation of The Fly also was great.
The Fly was nice, yeah. I
Yeah.
like the ones that they really went down a different path, like you said. Some of the ones more recent, Ordinary Love, it's
Yeah.
been done 4 or 5 times, and they really didn't need to scratch at it again. They didn't add a
Right.
lot. But some of
Yeah.
the older stuff, I really enjoy going back and listening and seeing what they did.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always wanting them to take "So Cruel" because I think they did that song on there, and, flip it and make it more introspective as well, because when you break up a relationship, you're talking about someone else being cruel, and then an older person would stop and go, "You know what, though? I should have been a better person too." And to
Yeah.
add that element in, I think that really takes that song in a new direction. They didn't do it, I don't think, but there's, look, it's their choices, right? It's their album. They get to do what they want.
Many of the nights at Spear, Bono ended it by saying, "I'm so cruel,"
Yeah,
which was
that's the way to do
which
it.
which was the twist on it. It was
Yeah,
really nice. So
yeah, 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 yeah. And
I
then
I
also,
almost wish
"We
they
Are
had
So Cruel" is good too. I think that's even better.
I almost wish they had waited until they finished the Acton Baby stuff to go in and do that album, because I'd love to see what they do with those songs now that they've lived with it for half a year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Did you go see the shows at the Sphere?
I did. I saw 6 of them.
6. Damn, kid. That's a lot.
3 in October and 3 in February.
I saw one in October, probably the same show because the odds are pretty good. And then I saw the 26th, the January 26th show. I saw the October 18th show. Did you go to that one?
No, I was the 5th, 6th, and 8th or something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
Something in that window
We had Edge's wife on the balloon.
on the swing.
Yeah, yeah. This is a funny story. And we're going to talk about your book more in a second here, but I went to this Cirque du Soleil thing. I live in Southern California, and so I went to this Cirque du Soleil thing, and it's called Cortero, right? And they had this little person, and so I'm specifically not saying dwarf. It is a human, but it's like more of like the petite style person, so it looks
Yeah,
like a child, but you can tell it's an adult. And she comes floating into the Microsoft Theater, which is a huge, super tall theater, and she's got, I don't know, 9 giant helium balloons. And it's just this ethereal thing. And the ringleader, the ringmaster guy, who was like the main character, he welcomes her on stage, and I'm like, oh, they're going to bump her into the crowd. Now, before we go into this show, I say to my friends and my girlfriend who I went to the show with, I'm like, I am not pulling my camera out. I'm just going to be present in this show, and I'm not going to do it. And I realize, because of the way the theater is filled, we're probably going to receive this person, because that they're going to bump her out into the crowd like a beach
yeah.
ball. And so sure enough, they do. And sure enough, they kick her right towards us. And there's 2 Pete's. So my buddy Pete, the girl is going to land on his wife, and so she's like, and it's so Pete like bumps her up in the air, and I'm like, I didn't pull my camera out. I waited, and I'm like, oh, I have to pull my camera. So I turned around, I just to kind of give the ethereal floating of the thing. But what I should have done was grab that video of him bumping her up in the air. I have to say that because I'm walking to the Sphere from my show in October. I've not seen the show. I've purposely avoided all like input about it. And I say to my girlfriend, I'm like, no matter what happens, I don't care if they put a woman on the balloon at a theater. I'm not taking my phone out. And then sure enough, there's Morley swinging on the balloon, and I'm like, it happened again.
That's the last time somebody swang on the balloon.
Is that right?
That was the last night. They pulled up 3 fans early on, and then they pulled up Morley, when they were trying to retool that piece, and
Yeah,
they never went back to it. There's a lot of theories that maybe insurance stepped in and said, "We don't want you grabbing a fan and swinging them out over your audience. What if they slip off or something
yeah,
like that?" And there was
yeah.
also some COVID concerns, I think, at the time with
Oh my
people
God.
coming onto the
Yeah, yeah.
stage, and obvious,
You're not going
obviously,
to
you
catch
don't
COVID from a wire hanging from a ceiling, but that's all right. Okay.
exactly.
Um, and I only bring that story in just because you chronicle this stuff, and it's just a hilarious thing. And I know you can appreciate because you must get a million of these stories from people. Because not only did you write the book, but you have your wonderful website. Let's talk about that.
U2 songs started it in 1995. We've been 29 years keeping track of U2. Started out as a little collector's page, way to keep track of what I was buying, actually, and it grew
Yeah,
from there. These days, most recent news about the band, we track all of the live appearances, set lists, news about where they're playing next and where they played last.
yeah,
Uh, there's a lot of material there. I kind of call it a U2 encyclopedia online.
yeah, yeah.
Along the way, Wikipedia came along and took a little thunder, so I've done the deep dive to pull out even more obscure facts about the band.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how many hours have you put into this thing in the last? I mean, I'm going to say the words 30 years, right? I mean, okay, give or take, some months, but that's what we're talking about here.
I expect it's the equivalent of a almost full-time job.
Yeah,
There are
yeah,
some weeks that I probably put 20, 30 hours into it. And then there's periods where I probably leave it for a couple of weeks at a time without a lot of updates. So
yeah.
do have a
And do
team
you,
that's helping me out, so I'm not
right?
there by myself. There's 7 of us at this point.
Okay.
So
How much revenue does, you don't got to tell me the exact number, but is this thing worth your while, or is this just completely a passion project with maybe a little bit of money coming in?
I spend money every month putting it
Yeah,
out. I make
yeah,
nothing off of it. I have no ads. It's completely me behind paying for it, and that's the way I want to keep it. I get
can
asked all the time,
yeah.
"How do I support you?" or "What can I do?" I basically say, when I get to the point I need money, I'm going to shut it down. So
Okay, yeah.
just
Well,
something I want to do, keep myself busy and
yeah,
entertained.
yeah. It makes you a PhD in you too, is what it really does.
In some ways, yeah.
No, it absolutely does. There's no taking that away because you've spent the time. You have got the license to talk openly about you too, what they've done, what they're doing. You've done the work. 30 years, that counts, man.
Yeah, it does. I've not only written for the book, but I recently did a number of articles for Record Collector magazine on the band as well. So
Yeah.
that, on the other hand, does pay a little bit. So I'm starting to see a little income from the writing, but it's still not very much. It's not enough to cover what the page costs usually. So
Yeah. Well, let's put the link for the book. If you are at all into YouTube, ding, 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 right there, there's the link. It's in the remarks. I'm on YouTube. On X, you can just, look it up on the thing. But the thing I want you all to do is if you all are into the YouTube thing, you should absolutely buy 2 of these books, one for yourself to throw on the shelf and keep forever and never look at it, one to mess with, maybe even one for a friend. That's how you support all of the work that you've done. I mean, I appreciate you doing this, collecting all this stuff. We've had other YouTube sites come, significant sites come and go, but it is expensive, it's time consuming, and so I appreciate you doing that, and I think everybody should go down there and buy that thing. It's a fantastic book. I've been tooling through it, and it's just great. I can go through and read about you two all day long, and well, once it's out, I'll be buying my own copy anyhow, but I just think it's a great thing that you've done, and I appreciate you for doing all of this YouTube work.
I've got a stack of them sitting behind me at the moment. They're just on their way out over the next week. So my copies came in yesterday. So it's the first
Nice.
time I've actually seen it in person.
Yeah, yeah. I got the PDF, everybody, and it's just because of the show, but I for sure am going to buy one. And I've got someone in mind. I'm going to buy one for them just to send it over because it's just it's a neat thing to do. What's your, what song was the most, or songs were the most challenging to write about? It's fun to say what your favorite ones were, but like, which ones you're like, man, I just cannot seem to nail down Lemon, Breathe, whatever it's going to be.
Actung Baby, the whole album. I
Yeah.
left it till the end. It's never been my favorite album. I know that'll shock some people, but
Well, and you like pop. What's
it,
wrong
it
with you?
I've always had a struggle with that album. It was a time it came out when I was just hitting university, my tastes were changing. I
Yeah.
was going down a different path, and
Yeah.
I really didn't have that connection to Acton Baby that I did with some of the other albums. A lot of great songs on there, and over the years I've connected with them live. These shows at the Sphere certainly helped with that, but
Yeah.
it was a bit of a struggle for me to go in because I wasn't paying close attention in 1991 when it came out. So I had to go back and take a look at a lot of stuff that I had missed.
Mm.
Gave me a new appreciation for it. I certainly got there in the end. But yeah, it was a struggle for me to sit down and crack into that chapter. Whereas the other albums and the other eras, I've been a lot closer to. Some of my favorite albums are the lesser known ones. Unforgettable Fire, Zooropa, and No Line on the Horizon are probably my three favorites.
Yeah.
So I could really jump into some of the obscure stuff and get a good start with it. It was some of the bigger.
Zooropa is an important album. I mean, that's a masterpiece for sure. It doesn't seem like it, but then you start stacking all the albums up if you dare to try to rank them. And you have to keep nudging Zooropa up because it's loaded with great music.
Zooropa's the one that brought me back to the fold after Acton Baby left me a little cold and I had gone off to explore other things.
Yeah.
With Zooropa and Zoo TV that brought me back. I really got into Zooropa, and then the Zoo TV Live from Sydney video came out, and I just couldn't look away from that.
Yeah. That's great. I have a theory that the sphere is the fly. It's like the modern creation of it,
I think
because everything in that building is like, was it real? Is that real? Is there a helicopter? Like, is there actually an opening at the top of the sphere? And it's just
there's
such a, huh?
there's one point where the back wall opens up and you see lights come through,
Yeah.
and I'm still trying to figure out if the wall actually opened up or if that was something on the screen. I don't
It,
know.
and this is so I was telling my friend Pete because we went to that show too, the one in January, and I'm like, everything you see, you're gonna have to wonder, is that really there? Like, you see all these concrete walls? It's not there. And I'm not sure of that. And like, the whole time I was saying, I'm like, it could really be concrete walls here. But there is a point, yeah, where you see like what looks like Borg kind of technology, and the lights are shooting through.
Yeah.
And I believe that the concrete wall is a scrim, and behind it, that is the actual like LED, because there's no projector. It's got to
No,
come from behind. That's my thought.
it's all coming from behind. They had issue at one of the final shows where a couple of panels stopped working,
Yeah,
and you could actually see the crew in behind with the flashlights trying to get things reestablished. So it's see through. You can see things in behind it when there's something there. It was interesting.
yeah. We had a blank spot in ours, just boop. It's hard to tell how big it was, but it was big. It was a, I don't know, not when I'm saying big. If I was to characterize how large it was probably this big, right?
Yeah.
But it's 50 feet away, so it was probably bigger than that. But it wasn't so distracting. Just you could see it. But yeah, it's a giant projector, so sometimes there's going to be some hiccups in the technology.
I'm interested to see how well it holds together over the years. In 10 years' time, when Britney Spears is in there doing a little performance, is it going to actually be still the same venue that it was when you two opened it? It was
Yeah.
so new and layer of polish on everything still.
Yeah, I wonder about that because it's a so the fish slash the dead, that's a great use because you probably could use a lot of the same images for those two bands. But just the amount of money that goes into creating the movie that you play that perform to, and you have to have 20,000 fans willing to show up and do it often enough to cover the cost of doing it, right? So that means you have to do enough of a residency that everybody's making money.
Yeah.
How
Um,
many bands are like that? How many band shows are big enough? Because if you weren't big, I'll just pick on Whitesnake. If Whitesnake goes there and has like pyrotechnics and shit, that ain't gonna that's, you're gonna get swallowed whole by that place.
you'll just disappear unless you can put the big show behind you, and you've got to stand out in front of that show and make it work.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't know
I
how many
yeah,
acts. There's some strong rumors that Beyonce keeps looking at that
sure.
venue.
Oh,
I
she
think
has to.
I think
Rumors
a
are not
big
her.
pop star,
Go
something
ahead.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the big acts, anybody arena and up needs to be thinking about how they're going to redefine their show and take it to Vegas and go camp out for whatever it is, 4 months, 6 months, or whatever. But yeah, Lady Gaga, Pink, these are people that can fill that arena up. And then what about comedians or whatever else? Like, they can go in there. Kevin Hart decided to do a residency. Why wouldn't he go to the Sphere? And how would he use it? The Really, because you two made it so big, now you can get all the really creative people to go, here's how Kevin Hart uses the Sphere, and it's going to be something incredible.
Yeah. How do you use it? That's the big question.
Right.
I think you two were still figuring that out at the end.
Totally.
They
Yeah.
were still changing and mucking around with it right up till the end. That's why I went back in February. I
Yeah.
had this feeling that seeing it in October, I saw it too early.
Yeah. And I felt like the October show was better. Like it was like when I saw my show on the 26th, it was like the Sphere was drunk and having a bit of a hangover day. And so for like there's a whole long section where I'm like, where are you, man? Where is like the amazing? Where's my job? And I looked behind me because not everybody, it wasn't their second show. I looked behind me and everybody's having a great time. And I'm like, I gotta quit being so hard on the Sphere. It's fine.
Where'd you see the show from?
The
Seats?
floor both times.
Okay, floor both times.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I I did something I don't usually do. I bought a seat and I sat down and I watched the screens for one of those nights that I was there. And I'm really glad I did it, but I missed the floor. I was glad to go
Yeah.
back afterwards. So
Yeah, the floor was great. I know there's a lot of great spots, and I can't believe some of the shots from above. It's just that it's a gorgeous venue when you fill it with these images. So when they do, I forget what song. Is it even better than the real thing when they have like the
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 Elvis,
Elvis thing? Was there a Bruno Mars little mini Elvis from Honeymoon in Vegas?
I believe there is.
I never saw it, and I was hoping that somebody had seen it.
A lot of the footage is taken from various movies. Nicolas Cage is in there somewheres too.
Right, same movie.
Uh,
Yeah,
Bono and Edge are in there. Bono's there as Mephisto, and the Edge is dressed in his cowboy hat from Pop Mart. So there's a lot of layers to that video. One of these
yeah,
days, I'll sit down and pull it all apart and write something up about it.
love
I
it.
love doing that kind of sort of deep dive, but
Yeah,
I with the book and keeping up with the tour, I haven't had a chance to look at it too closely.
sure, sure. When you think about other bands, not acts, like it's not a knock on Beyonce, it's not a knock on Lady Gaga, but like when you're talking about a band, what other bands come to mind that could take that thing and really put it through the works?
Depeche Mode.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know
They're
who I think would shine?
they're a strong second favorite of mine too. But I
Yeah,
think they've got the visuals. They've got the visual identity and the video. What they've done live, I think they could do something with it.
yeah. I saw The Cure at the Hollywood Bowl, and the Hollywood Bowl is just a great venue. It's my favorite venue to go see a show. And if you take The Cure's sort of, I don't know, their approach, if you've seen The Cure live, but they
I
do
have,
not like the camera on them. And so this is the perfect spot for them to be backlit and just put on an amazing show. I would love to see The Cure. If The Cure goes there, I'll pay the money to go see them.
yeah, I think I'd see The Cure, Depeche Mode. Either one of those acts went in there, I probably want to go back. I do
Yeah.
want to see what other acts do with it. I have an interest now that I've been there and seen it open. I'd be happy to go in. Fish isn't my thing. Grateful Dead, maybe not, but we'll see what
Right.
comes next. I don't
Yeah.
think it's my last trip down to Las Vegas to see something there.
Yeah. No, I agree. It is a fantastic venue. Let's get back to the book. By the way, the link for the book, ding, 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 right down below. It would be great if you guys bought the book and support the effort. When you get into these things, you've got your peers. You're like, "Hey, Pete, you call me up. What are your thoughts on this song?" Wherever I'm assuming you dived into the community, at least your version of it, to get some ideas on where you're going to take some of these songs.
I did the exact opposite.
All right.
I kind of did my own thing and didn't tell anybody I was writing it. But yeah,
Good.
the team I worked with on the site, they knew what I was doing. They had a lot of things bounced off of them. Um, the people you see thanked in the first couple of pages, that would be the people that I went to and spoke to about the book before it was announced and
Mm.
bounced ideas off of or asked for some help with something from. Um, but I tried to do it myself. I really want to sit down and not crowdsource this. I really want to sit down and do my own piece of work this time. And I was happy with how it turned out, but it also left me with a little fear that perhaps I went down the wrong path or I looked at things the wrong way. So over the last couple of weeks, it came out in Europe on March 1st. So I've been getting a little bit of feedback, and some of the YouTube fans that I really respect and I really value their knowledge have come to me and said, I didn't think it was possible. You taught me something about YouTube. So
Yeah.
that kind of made me realize, yeah, I think I accomplished what I set out to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of books about U2 songs out there. A lot of here's the meaning behind them, or here's a critical analysis of them. I really want to steer clear of that and do something different. So I really looked at some of where the songs ended up in pop culture and where the fans have taken them,
Yeah.
charts and stuff like that. That's not something that I've seen covered before. So it was fun. It was good to get in and do my own thing a little bit. So
Yeah.
I started writing it at the start of 2021. So COVID had hit, and I was working from home and not seeing a lot of people. So it was nice to have something to dive into and just focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you break the work up like whatever song moves you, you're gonna write about it, or how did you divide that up?
I broke it down by albums, and once I started an album, I didn't move on until I
Okay.
finished it. So
Yeah.
I spent 3 months writing Pop. Was the first one I picked, and I spent the entire word count, like I said, on one album.
Yeah. How does
Really,
that work? Where's the rest of that? Where are all those words? Where do they live?
they live in a second book.
All
I
right.
I I do have some ideas for other things that came out of writing
Yeah.
that. Um,
Yeah.
but I forced myself. Once I peeled back a book, I said I'm not going to play favorites. I'm not just going to jump in and do all my favorite songs. Otherwise, this is going to be a pain to wrap up in the end. So once I started, I did the whole album, not necessarily in order.
Right.
I did hop through. If I found an article with some words on one song or another, it often had other songs mentioned that I would pull together. So it was nice to jump around. When I did get bored, I'd sometimes hop to the next album and then back again. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah. You're entitled to do that. When you go through this meditation and really dive in, and these songs are also powerful, and you attach yourself to them in ways that are really just incredible. Bono and the band are great at that. But when you're going through this, I mean, of course, you're teaching us things about it. Even though we all know a lot about these songs, you're specifically scouring and looking. So obviously, you're learning things, and so you're going to bring us things. But when you're going through this, how emotionally impactful was it for you?
you're gonna make me cry. um, there were some moments that it brought up some memories of why I liked songs or memories I
Yeah,
have attached to songs. Uh, the big one, I saved "Running to Stand Still" to write for the last song. Um, it's my favorite U2 song, so
Mm,
want to save it for the end. Sorry, I am breaking up a bit.
good.
Um, it was Christmas Eve. First time I didn't make it home to spend Christmas with my family. Bad snowstorm here, so I was here by myself. Um, was writing it, and there was a Bono appearance that was going to be streaming on the internet, and I knew that it was going to be on at 7 o'clock or whatever time he was performing in Dublin. Had no idea what he was performing. All of a sudden, I hear him singing "Running to Stand Still" as I'm writing along,
Uh,
and it was just this perfect low moment. My favorite song, all by myself, just perfect little moment for the evening, and it really brought out some tears that night. So there
good.
were some moments like that along the way. There's other
Yeah.
moments, obviously everybody's got their own memories attached to the songs. They've got their own meanings attached. So getting in and telling somebody that the song is about this or that, I didn't really want to do that. I mean, the band has enough quotes in there that you get that picture from a lot of the songs.
Yeah.
But I know my memories came out a lot. Just remembering the first time I saw some of these songs, where I was and who I was with, and
Yeah.
it was a good walk through my past. I've been listening to these guys for 40 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
19,
Yeah.
it was probably about 40 months ago or 40 years ago this month that I got into them. So it's been a long road traveled. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of memories there.
I only have a couple of years on you, and caught like you caught it early, and it's just been great. And one of the things I've realized as they've moved through their lives, and there's so much autobiographical work in their catalog, you realize, like when you see Joshua Tree and it goes higher and higher, it's you realize that Unforgettable Fire was a better album than you realized, that you were aware of. War was a better album. And then they go to Octoon Baby and Zooropa, and you're like, this band is way, like, I have missed things. And you go back to the catalog, and all of a sudden you do spend more time with the songs. It's just not just if you're into the band, you're not just listening to something. There's You start to really study it. You really do. And I've always thought about writing something like you've done, this writing about these different songs and what they do mean to me personally, or what the experience are, because we all have this common thing in life where music attaches to our lives. And if you have a band that's your home band, like we do, then these big moments, not getting home for Christmas, I'm deployed to Iraq, and there's all these different songs and meanings and emotions that tie into all this stuff. I've been to Sarajevo during the Dayton Peace Accord deployments, right? I've been there, and so when you hear a song like Miss Sarajevo and Pavarotti singing it, I get emotional all the time. Mothers of the Disappeared, all the time I get emotional about these things.
Um, Miss Sarajevo is close one to my heart as well. One of my best friends is from Sarajevo and left
Yeah,
as a young child fleeing from war. So those stories are close. That is the one album that doesn't get a lot of coverage too.
yeah.
Passengers, something had to give for space, and that unfortunately was the one. But I still managed to fit it in there in some way, shape, or form. But hopefully, I'll give it some love in another project later in life.
It's a great chapter in, and by the way, Bono's book is the best audiobook I've ever heard. The performance of that book is amazing. The book itself is incredible, but the section on Luciano and those guys going through that whole process is just why you read a book.
I had the opportunity to see him do his book tour in Dublin,
Yeah,
and he was telling that story about Pavarotti coming to the studio with the camera crew and 6 people to record the song and the whole band, and it was just hilarious to hear him tell that story and to think about what went into that song.
yeah, yeah. The audio version of that book is, I don't know if it won any awards, but it should have. It was just, you
Uh,
can't. Yeah. Go ahead.
It just did win an award not that long ago for best audiobook. It's some sort of association of audiobooks that
Yeah.
it won for. So
Yeah. Well, and like anything they do, it's not a small effort. They bring in pros. They push out the artistry just to the absolute limits and see if they can bust through to some new area. They do this all the time as a band. Like the Experience and Innocence tour and the way they reconfigured the arena, the sound. They're always doing things that push the limits of what a band can do live.
they're rarely happy to do the same thing twice. And if they do the same thing twice, it's always different the second time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
they went back to the same stage for Experience and Innocence that they had done on the previous tour, but it lifted up and it moved and it changed how they used it throughout the show. So
Yeah.
they went back and they reinvented it a little bit. So it was
Yeah.
interesting.
When you think about the best of U2, is there an era? Is there a collection of songs? Like, what's have they? You know, they probably have reached their peak, but then again, they just became the most relevant band in the world. So, what would you say is the best of what they are?
The era they're probably going to be most remembered for is 87 to 91. Joshua Tree, Roll and Hum, Acton Baby. They were on everybody's lips and in every paper and winning every award out there. That's going to be hard to beat that era in
Right?
anybody's memories long term.
Yeah.
My favorite era is 93 through 97. And that does not, I usually get the laugh.
Yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
just
come on. Like it's there are so many people that would say the very beginning and after the third album they were done with them, right? Not been any good ever since. There's all those people too, and they make me laugh, right? And so I don't have an era that's favorite, so I appreciate you sticking it on Zooropa and Pop,
I
but
I like the 90s, Zooropa, original soundtracks and pop. They
yeah,
threw they threw being popular out the window and just went and did what they wanted to do. They
yeah,
experimented, they played around, they made a lot of music,
yeah,
stands up really well. I
yeah,
find some of their earlier catalog sounds dated now. That stuff from the 90s, somebody could release some of that today and it would be a hit, I think. I think in
for
some
sure. And
cases they were fine.
and maybe Pop isn't perfect, but there's a lot of good songs on that album. And
Oh,
uh, the other thing that happened around that time is they released those greatest hits albums, and I think we all just kind of got full for a minute there.
yeah, 98 they released the first one, so it was right on the heels of that. And then they went
Yeah,
back to basics with the next couple albums and went back to the
yeah,
rock band thing. I mean, it's another great era for them, but I kind of liked where they were before that. So
yeah.
I checked out for a bit and got reinvigorated when No Line in the Horizon came around.
Yeah, yeah. I love that album. I love all of them. I probably like October the least, but let's go back to that reinvigoration with How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb and No Line on the Horizon. And what's the other album from there? It's not. I know it, but it's not coming to my head right now.
All that you can't leave behind.
Yeah, right, right. That's again, there's masterpieces. These
Oh,
albums are just loaded with stuff, and always the autobiographical, right? Going through the whole stuff with his dad and everything else. It's an amazing and I'm 10 years younger than Bono. You're a slightly bit younger than me, just a touch. And so as I'm going through these things, it's all coming up for me in my life too. Like me and my dad don't get along, but he gives me pipe organs and classical church music, and I learned so much about music from my dad. And there's a lot of passion there. So we have this ongoing, he's dead, but ongoing uh, challenging relationship where there's all this pain, anger, and danger, but then there's all this beauty of music.
my dad and I were a lot like that. We didn't see eye to eye, and I brought Zooropa home. I had it up full blast. He was screaming from the kitchen, "Turn it down! What is this crap?" Johnny Cash's voice came on at the end of the album. He came down to my room. He sat at the end of the bed, and he just listened to it. And
Yeah.
then he asked to hear it again, and then he started talking about Johnny Cash and how he was his favorite, and I had
Yeah.
no idea what Dad liked for music. I didn't know Dad liked music.
Right.
So Zooropa has a few special moments like that in it for me too. So
Yeah. YouTube does a lot of that where they write a song for someone or they introduce, and look, a lot of this stuff is introduced like, hey, they get a lot of, you know, grief for Rattle on Hum, but hey, I needed that education. I
oh,
was night, you know.
my music education is courtesy of Bono.
And the
There-
books too, when he name checks a book, him and Sting. I didn't know who all those characters and writers were, but there now I do. Now I do.
yeah, I've learned through popular culture. Everything I've learned is from musicians or artists.
Gilligan's Island. I learned a lot from Gilligan's Island.
Comic books was my big one.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
everything I know about World War II from comic books.
yeah, yeah. That's true. So when you think about the songs that Bono has written for other people, which ones stand out to you? Like which ones hold the place?
Mystery Girl. She's a mystery to me. Roy Orbison. Probably one of the most beautiful songs out there. His voice is just amazing. And
Yeah,
I don't think I would have found Roy Orbison without it. Um, it's not a Bono connection. Larry Mullen played on Emmylou Harris's Wrecking Ball album. Daniel Lanois produced it, and
yeah,
that album is probably one of my favorite albums.
yeah,
Wouldn't have found it without you two.
yeah, yeah.
So
See, there you go.
Adam Clayton's on it too, I think. Or no, that's a different album I'm thinking of. But
Yeah,
yeah, I've been led down the path to quite a few things, and even some of the newer stuff they're doing. They did that song for the Euro Cup there a couple of years ago with Martin Garrix. It's a
yeah,
great little song.
yeah.
Bono sounds great on it. I really wish they had kept it for themselves, but they do a lot of interesting stuff. A lot of those songs didn't make it into the book
Right.
because it's not a U2 song, but they're all mentioned in the back. There's an appendix where I go through all the solo projects and
Yeah.
try to capture all of the songs they've been involved in their career. So
Yeah, like Slide Away. I imagine that's not in there, or any of like there's a Green Day song. I think there's a Metallica song. All those kind of side things. Those aren't really covered. I'm assuming.
no, they're just covered at the end. Any of the cover songs they recorded as well. There's a list of them in the back of the book, just so they're captured in some way. But there's no write up about Paint It Black. It's not
Right.
a YouTube song, so I didn't feel the need to spend a lot of time on it.
And what about the song that Bono wrote for Frank Sinatra? Two shots of something and one
Two
shot of
shots of
something.
happy, one shot of sad.
There
It
you
does
go.
make it. It does make it in there because you two did a recording themselves of that song and had it on a B side, so it gets snuck in through a back door.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Okay. Good.
that's the song that Sinatra never recorded, but his daughter Nancy did. And interestingly enough, Larry Mullen and Adam Clayton play on her version of it.
Right.
So
Yeah. That's
another one
great.
of those side projects that
Yeah. Did anything from the Broadway show make it in?
um, just in the back appendix.
Just the back. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think "Boy Falls from the Sky" gets a mention because it was a U2 song that Larry Mullen and Adam Clayton gifted to Spider-Man.
Right.
So
Right.
it's mentioned in passing.
When you think about their own pain and the people they've lost, there's a lot of death in those songs. Not quite as much as Johnny Cash probably, but there is that song for Michael Hutchins. Sometimes you can't make it on your own. There is the stuff of Bob dying and all of these obviously sings about his mom dying damn near every album. Um, forget that. Let me go in a different direction. One of the things I love about Bono is he uses different points of views on songs, and so he'll take a point of view, and then he'll turn it, and then or he'll tell it from that version of that person, or it's an exterior view. Like I always think, I think it's so cruel. There's like a third person, or
There's another person behind the story, I think.
Yeah, right. And so you're seeing different, and I love that about how he approaches love. It's so many different angles he talks about love because it's not just unrequited love or like baby, baby, here I am, suck, suck, buck, buck. No, like there's all these different versions of very just, it's just fantastic perspectives on how he expresses that expression of love.
Sorry, I was waiting for a question there.
Oh no, I was just leaving you an opening to have a conversation.
Uh,
Just there's so many different versions of it. Whether he's singing about love between two people, from me to that person from me, somebody else. There's all these different perspectives on love. I just think that he's had and also by the way, he evolves the song over time as it grows with him. Different songs become different things. So I guess that love theme that's always stood out to me. Has that stood out to you? There's your question.
the love theme is certainly there, and I've noticed it shifting. It's shifted from romantic love to familial love.
Mm,
His wife has entered the picture. Some of the songs got a little bit more cheesy there in the 80s when he was going through the early days. But
yeah,
nowadays, there's a lot of love for his kids and community and stuff like that is really the driving message.
yeah.
Um, I'm really seeing his position shift around and when he talks about love too. So
How so?
it just I think he's looking at it as a bigger object than he did back
Mm,
when he got started. He seemed very focused on just the immediate relationships.
yeah,
And then Actung Baby was about the breaking up of some of those relationships, falling
yeah,
apart, the darker side of it all. And he seems to have hit like this happy spot with it all these days. So I've seen his take has shifted, moved around a little bit.
yeah.
So
Here on the show, we've done episodes called album fights. And we take two albums, let's say they each have 11 tracks, and you put them through a boxing match, right? So round one versus round one, and then you score the fight. Round two, track three, all the way down. And one of the things that we've realized is one, as you really study these albums, right? Like Joshua Tree, you realize there's leftovers from Unforgettable Fire, and there's hints, even though they haven't written it yet, there's hints of Octoon Baby. Like you can feel the transition in the music and the themes, and that's an album of two distinct sides, right? And so you go through and you realize just how strong an album can be. And one thing that U2 has done a really great job of is even if the song is not like their prime song, there are very few weak songs on albums. Like a lot of times, the seventh track will be like, "Hey, we need a song for this
Wild
one."
Honey.
What's that?
I
Wild
said
Honey. Yeah,
Wild Honey.
yeah, yeah. They're not every band has all great songs, but they seem to put a lot of strength throughout. Prince does this, where you're like, "There's just no weak songs on here." Um, the Police, on their albums, it's 11 incredible songs over and over and over again. And so there's just no weak songs in the catalog. And by the time you get to, so if you were to stack up U2's catalog vertically and just said any band can go down with us, nobody has 25, 30 great songs like that. I mean, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, maybe the Stones. We're
Yeah.
starting to run out of bands that we can say 30 incredible songs. But that's really what we're talking about with these elite bands that have done over a long period of time incredible work that's just jaw dropping. And then you get to that next cut where they're still great songs, but they're not going to win Grammys or everything. They're still going to be people's favorite songs, but it's a different thing. So do you recognize like that cream and how thick that cream layer is?
I think that most people would be jealous of U2's weakest songs. Like, there are acts out there that would kill to put together a song like Wild Honey. I throw it
Yeah.
out as one of my least favorites, and I pick on it when I go through and do things, but
Yeah.
there are artists that would love to put together something that's that complete of song, and
Yeah.
I mean, some of their weakest stuff ends up on the B-sides and ends up being my favorite. I'm constantly digging for the leftovers and the experimental stuff that they didn't feel was good enough to be on the album. I
Yeah.
love some of that stuff. Some
What's
of
your
their
favorite
stronger
B-side?
now I'm gonna slip and not come up with an answer for you. Xanax and Wine was one of them that really caught my ear. I really liked
Yeah.
that talky rap, the fast speed of it. I really liked what they did there. Um, that material that they released on Apple in 2004 in the complete U2, there were a lot of treasures in that. Smile,
Oh yeah.
Flower Child, Always, from the Beautiful Day B-side is just an amazing song.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. When you you think about all these incredible songs, and then you two can always close on Beautiful Day. And just like know that the grand finale is going to be incredible as they walk their way into that song. It's
they've got some. I think it's Where the Streets Have No Name. Bono said, if we're having a shit night, put that song on, and God walks through the room and brings the crowd to life.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, bands are lucky to get one or two songs like that. U2's got With or Without You. They've got Pride
Yeah.
in the Name of Love.
It's
City of
yeah,
Blinding Lights for something a little more recent. Love is bigger
yeah.
than anything in its way. I
It's a
mean,
great
that
song. Yeah.
just came
Yeah,
out
you
on the
could do
most.
that for 10 more songs and just say incredible, this kind of song that, Michael Stipe talks about. I wish I wrote Beautiful Day, and you got other legitimate people going, I wish I wrote that song.
I think
It
that
really
quote might
is.
be in the book.
Uh-huh.
There is a
Good, good,
Michael
good.
Stipe quote in there somewheres. I know. I think it was the Beautiful Day one. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah. The link for the book, everybody, it's right down there. I hope you guys, if you're into that kind of thing, get it. And anytime we have someone on who creates something, try to find a way to support, if not that artist, go take that initiative and support the artist that you like. Because I'll tell you what, I mean, as someone who relies on fan support, $5 a month from somebody, man, that adds up. It makes a difference. And so try to get your money directly into the pocket of that artist, however you can, whether it's buying this book here or buying a shirt or PayPaling. I don't know, just reach out. There's all kinds of artists that are hanging on by a thread, and that little bit of money might buy them that next thing. So it doesn't take a lot. Go out and see live music. Go out and see people perform things. Pay them for their work that they do. Even if you don't get anything out of it, just pay them to continue to go forward, because that's a great way to support things. And that's my little wrap up for what I want to say. And thank you, man, for coming on the show. I love talking about you too. This was great. I love the hell out of being able to do this for people, but also with you. What do you want to close
Um, I never thought about a closer. I've really enjoyed just sitting and talking. I could talk you two for days. Getting a chance to put it down on paper uh, really gave me something I could pour some heart and soul into. So I've really tried to go and find something interesting about the songs.
on? Yeah.
I know my aunt is going to read the book and not know a single U2 song. I wanted something in there that would catch her eye or make her interested in continuing through the book. So I'm hoping I established some of that and got to that point in the book. I really, really did try to come up with something unique and show a bit of my love for the band and show off a little bit of what the fans have done over the years. First thing I wrote was Where the Streets Have No Name. Publisher had asked for a sample just to say, okay, we're giving this to the right guy. And one of the
Right.
pieces in there, friend of mine, Christine, she goes to every show with a pocket full of glitter. And when the lights come up during Where the Streets Have No Name, you can find her in the arena or the stadium because this pile of glitter just goes up over her head everywhere. And
Yeah.
little moments like that, just capturing some of that. There's a lot of love in that book. I really, really did
Yeah.
enjoy writing it, and I hope people enjoy reading it.
I love it. All right. Stand by. I'll come back and say goodbye in a second. Let me roll
Yeah.
these credits. Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to.